And I think that this our government, if you once you get into the office, you are for everybody, not those who voted for you alone. But that is what is happening. That's why we are finding so many things difficult.
Are you saying?
Yeah.
Omolara, are you saying for you to impact on policy, you need to be in government? What about if you're in the opposition?
You don't need to be in the government. But they have people in the government had to realize that they are for everybody.
Yes.
But what we get is that
one of the problems.
It's a problem.
It's a problem, but one of the problems we have is that if you are in the opposition, you want to oppose. Sometimes you want to oppose what those who are in government are doing. So what is the best way to get the opposition and the ones in government to come together to agree that this is good for the country, that we must move forward together? Which is the best way
important. Yes, it's important. Networking.
Well,
can I talk?
Yeah, please, Lawal. If you could,
hello?
If you could lower your hand.
Okay. Oh, that's a very big question you have to on that. How can an opposition work with the present government? It takes the incumbent government to see the truth, to understand, and should be able to work together. Like in the state where I am in Nigeria here, the governor of the state is a very understandable leader, in the sense that whatever project he wants to inaugurate or commission, we invite opposition party to join him, especially opposition party that belongs to that constituency. I remember on the radio program, one of the opposition was challenged that why would that in history, opposition don't attend commissioning of project by incumbent governor, that why would he attend such? Then he said, he is not for his party, but it's for everyone in the states. And what the incumbent governor has done is a progress in the development in his constituency. He has to honor it. I remember his party members really had issue with him that, they did primary election recently in Nigeria. He was not given tickets to go back to the federal House of Representatives just because he did that. So I think it's a very strong something to work on until when the orientations of our politicians in the country change, that they are coming to the political authority to serve everyone, not their political party. If that orientation doesn't take place, I don't know how we're going to get there. No matter the networking, except, I don't know, we always use prayer in Nigeria, except if miracle happen. That's my own view of it.
So in terms of, let me just ask a follow-up question. We have spoken about the lack of aggression by the university community, but you also spoke about no funding. Funding is the reason why we have not enough facilities. That's one. So in terms of funding, where should we go to come up with research money to be used to support formulation of policy? Should we just be dependent on government? Does government have enough money? And if not, how can we push government to make research a priority? And who are likely other partners?
Okay, in national policy on education in Nigeria, the policy support collaboration, support from the community. And when we're talking about the community here, we're talking about maybe the philanthropies, the NGOs, and so on like that. Any philanthropists can come up to support research. NGOs can come up to support research. For instance, during my PhD, I got pen writing grant from a philanthropy in my institution. At least he gave like 100 PhD students that had outstanding research dissertation topic that's what it, because they check the dissertation topics and speed. So if we have many people that are very rich in the country and I love education, that love academics that can support, we can't depend all in government. Depending all in government, I'm sorry, in Nigeria, I don't think it can lead us to anywhere, except we just see old student, like the person is an old student of Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria, and he's okay, he just came up with that. And he has promised that every year he will be doing that. So if we have more people like that to support research, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Okay, so we did, yeah, so it should be a partnership.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
because government may not even have the money, but because these projects must be homegrown. What is it that is required in our government to make sure that we do not depend on donors for research money? What do we need to do? Omolara.
You see, first of all, we have to note the importance of research. You know, the first place I worked is Federal Office of Statistics. And I knew that sometimes when we do research and we come up with data, we have to, even the data is not used. It's not even, it's just in paper. So if people in the government, if they don't understand or see the importance of research making, it will just be in the cupboard. And they may not even budget appropriately for research. So one of the things that the network has to do is to ensure that the people in the government know the importance of researches.
Yeah, it's very, yeah, appreciate that, but it's enough to know. But we also, do we need to go to parliament? Do we need to go to parliament to lobby for more money for research so that is in legislation? Do you have to ensure that there is research money in the government budget, just like there is a budget for research in the universities? Which is the best way to make sure that it remains a priority? Yeah, if I could go back to Lawal, you spoke about bureaucratic inertia. This is a problem. It's a problem everywhere. So with regard to research, why do we have bureaucratic inertia, and which is the best way to go about fighting this problem?
Honestly, well, one thing I feel about research is not about you being an upcoming researcher or somebody who has been in existence for decades. But what I feel is that when it comes to research, I think it's something that you have passion for progress in your country, you have passion for development in your country. The leaders, those that are in the top hierarchy, should be able to welcome idea from young researchers. Like in my country now, mostly the research being carried out sometimes can just be on quantitative research alone. But looking at other countries, they look at qualitative research to give report on what you have really seen, face-to-face interaction. It's not about using questionnaires alone. But being a young researcher, sometimes because of the way the senior researchers feel, you will not be able to tell them that, sir or ma, this is the process, except those that are more accommodative among them. The fact is that I trained you at the university. I was your teacher. I was your lecturer. That fear will be there. And you know that, yes, you have this thing with you. You have these materials. You have this, the way you can go about it to bring out a very solid research. But when it is there, there's no way. You just keep quiet and just be looking.
Yes.
What I feel about research is that it's not that you just come up with a topic. I can be in any environment. A scenario could just take place and just feel like, things are not really working fine here. Let me investigate. Let me carry out a research. because you are meant to solve a problem. That's why you are carrying out a research. And as a researcher, wherever you find yourself in academics, you should always try to bring out a problem and look at the causes of that problem and recommend solutions. But you have it with you. But because of the bureaucratic process that, no, if you are not there, you can't get there, or favoritism or nepotism stuff like that is involved, then what do you do as a young researcher? You just keep quiet. And majority of all these organizations coming, I think we have to work on that too. You can easily
Yes.
approach institutions, but not that you should just be conversant with people that you know alone. There are young researchers that are really carry out the solid research that you can approach. Another thing again is that a young researcher will carry out researcher. It is the senior researcher that will take the glory. By the time they are publishing, their number, they will be the first author, corresponding author, while the real researcher will be the third author. But when you want to approach, you approach the corresponding author. So things like that are really affecting research situation in this country. I don't know about other countries, but that's what I just know about
Yes.
Nigeria.
Yes, that's what. But I was also talking, I was also referring to your second concern, your second obstacle, which was about it's okay, we may do research and we have the research findings. But then you spoke about the inertia, bureaucratic red tape that makes it impossible to implement. So once we have the
Yes.
findings and we want to start, or we want even to start a research topic so that we can address what is the problem. Why is it that there is bureaucracy is a problem, and how can we deal with that?
Well, I think that can be done through going through due process. Everything should be due process. It shouldn't be like being well connected. Due process should be followed. Due process should be followed. That will solve the situation. Am I
But you
coming?
see, I am sure. Yeah, please come in, Omolara.
Okay.
I can't. I think you're muted, Omolara.
Sorry.
Please unmute. Yeah.
Okay. I want to give an example, a personal example. Because when I started my NGO for child education, it wasn't for research, but because of the opportunity I have to work in the Federal Office of Statistics, I knew immediately that my environment needs some research and follow up. So that was why I went into I saw some things like how they are caring for children in the urban slum area, that it is not adequate. So I did some baseline study. And that's the baseline study that I submitted to UNICEF. And I was able to get grants to train the daycare proprietors or caregivers. So it's very important that if you find out wherever you are that there is need for upgrading of certain things, then you can discuss with people who are more knowledgeable so that they can look into it. That's what Lawal is saying, that you are afraid to discuss your discovery with some people because they snatch it and then they just push you apart and say, because you didn't get, you are not a university candidate. Even illiterate can give you ideas. But carry all the people along. It's very important.
Sometimes the best ideas are those that are born out of experience and wisdom, not reading books.
Exactly, exactly.
So a lot of were African societies surviving without formal education?
Mm-hmm.
they were performing, they were doing okay, and there probably was more wisdom. Maybe there was better governance. Maybe there were many issues. So even lack of education is not the issue. And even people who have not gone to school can do research, depending on how you want to define research, isn't it? And come up with
Yes.
solutions, that are based more on experience, because sometimes experience is the better teacher than what you read.
Better teacher.
Because yeah, when you read, sometimes you are reading about what happened elsewhere, or because you are a graduate student, you remember the theory that you read, or the book that you've read, what your professor told you. But sometimes if you decide to go and discover or use your experience to resolve problems, maybe that's what we lack the most, because we have this belief that you have to have academic document to help you resolve problems.
Yes.
Yes, that's the problem in the country here. If you are not in academics, I like my experience when I came to Kenya in 2018 for African conference. I was so impressed that I saw various researchers that are not in academics, that
Yes.
they are in different areas of professions, but they are researchers. So I also said, when I came back to Nigeria, I said that it's not much you be in academics before you can become a researcher. But in Nigeria here, if you're not an academic, you can't be a researcher. I think that has to change. Anybody can become a researcher because it's a thing of interest. It's a thing of bringing changes to your community, to your country. So that's the major challenge you are having here. Like Mama Omoralo have just said now, that an illiterate can be a researcher. It's just that he or she can just have the support of somebody who has the experience of maybe analyzing data, things like that. They work together.
So, if you go back to Nigeria, I find Nigeria interesting because you are very rich in food. You are very rich in
what?
Food.
Nigeria. Kenya too is rich in foods. I think Nigeria is rich in food, but Kenya also. You are rich in food.
There's nowhere like West Africa. Nigeria, there's so much choice of African cuisine.
Yes,
there's so much choice. There's a lot of choice.
Yes, don't you think
that's true. Don't you think even the food industry, the traditional Nigerian food industry, has evolved over time with cooks and and housewives, and housewives and house helps and partners coming up with new ideas of how to do things to improve what there is, or even in terms of varieties of crops and so on. Even traditional, the traditional plants, traditional medicine, the way we do things that are not Western. I think there's a lot that has come out from the indigenous community that has been a big contributor to many of the things we do.
Yes.
Actually,
sorry.
Excuse. Though yes, we are rich in food as well as Kenya, but where we surpass Kenya is that the processing of food, we are very good at it. For instance, if I take beans, there are so many ways of processing the beans. It can be like 10 areas of processing the beans in different ways that you can eat. That's it. And that one comes from the people we call illiterate. They have so many ways of preparing certain meals. So that's
some of the
it.
Best meals, some of the best meals you cannot find in a modern hotel.
You can't find them there.
Yes, you can't find them there. Even when if you find them there, they're going to be very expensive because they know people love local food, they love traditional food. So any hotel in Nigeria giving their customers such food will pay higher amounts than Western food. There's some local food that
so let's look at the area of education. How can traditional educationists or people with experience, how can they help us in terms of research that can support the policies that modern governments come up with? is there anything in our traditions, like in Nigeria, traditional education is there something they can tell us in terms of resolving educational problems of today?
Actually, with regard to that, where it is a bit difficult is that everybody wants to use a Western method.
education. Yes.
Even in the village, if you send your child to school, and I remember the minister, Babatunde, who said for early age, it should be taught in mother tongue.
Yes.
Yes.
But if you say, Fafunwa,
yes.
you see, if you say, the illiterate wants to see that our child is speaking English. The moment you speak one or two English, even though it's not practiced at home, if it's not careful, he will be withdrawn and taken to another school that they speak English. You see, that's the problem. We are also trying.
Is it only?
Yes,
But is it only illiterates? Is it only illiterates? Because in Kenya, elites and people with money, they don't want their children to learn the indigenous languages. It is not just the elite.
Well, can I come in?
In Nigeria, the elites like their children to learn indigenous languages.
Oh no, in Nigeria, I can say that maybe in the late 80s. But I remember when I was in primary school, I was trained with indigenous language. Only in English language that we speak English, but in other subjects we're taught in indigenous language. That was what she was saying, that late Babatunde Fafunwa, former Minister of Education in Nigeria, said all children at the early years should be trained with indigenous language. And it was in our National Policy on Education in Nigeria then. But with the introduction of Western education, fine, Western education has been existent through the missionary in Nigeria. But now that the illiterates discover that children of elites are moving faster, speaking good English, things like that, they all try their effort. Even if it's a private primary school that is just using an uncompleted building, they want their children to attend, just for those children to speak English so that they'll be able to meet up with children of the elites. That's why we have various type of private school in Nigeria. We have semi, but they will just say that their children should go to private school, except those that are the rural area that they believe in farming, that only send their few of their children to the public schools in the rural area. So I can't say that there is traditional education in Nigeria presently. That only takes place within the family, that you speak your mother tongue, things like that. But everybody has embraced Western education in Nigeria.
But the reason, but the reason they have embraced English, both the poor and the rich,
both the poor and the rich
because,
has embraced English.
That's the best way. It's because that's the best way to success. So they are being realistic.
Yes.
Yeah,
but
you would not get in Nigeria or Kenya. You don't get rewarded because you are an expert in Yoruba or Igbo.
No, no,
or Hausa.
Unless you can convince parents that your child can be very successful even in mother tongue. I have a family that when we were young, one of my friends, they speak their dialect, not even Yoruba now, at home with their daughters. And the daughter was the best in WAEC during that time. The whole WAEC.
Yeah,
but they were communicating their children in their dialect. That is Ijesha, from that. And it's different from even common Yoruba.
Yes. So that's it. But let me just go back now.
So it makes that child to quickly the thinking can be upgraded if he can dialogue in mother tongue?
Yes, let me go back to the use of mother tongue. Let me go back to the use of mother tongue and ask questions about what is it that we can, what kind of knowledge can be generated at the family level from parents and grandparents to support the process of teaching the mother tongue? How is it that grandparents and parents could be educators or solvers of problems related to indigenous language and indigenous cultures?
Can I come in?
Yeah, please, Lawal.
Okay. Well, I think we need to let the grandparents, and I cannot even blame the grandparents. I can blame the mothers and fathers. They'll be like, mommy, I'm trying to speak an indigenous language for you. Mommy means my mother. So,
Yes.
mommy, don't use this mother tongue to spoil my children spoken English because I'm paying huge amount of money. Now, grandmas will be forced, but there are some grandmas that will say, I trained you with mother tongue, and that is how I would train your children too. Don't spoil our culture with Western culture. Why some grandma will see like, okay, now we are in civilized world. Let me continue to, but there are some grammar. For somebody like me, I don't speak English with my child at home. I speak indigenous language. And some parents like that too are started seeing the impact of child understanding and speaking their indigenous languages because it really helped a lot. It really helped a lot. But the problem we are having is that due to migration, for instance, a child is from the Hausa ethnic group, but the parents are staying in the southwestern where they speak Yoruba language. If those parents are not speaking their indigenous language, those children will not understand their indigenous language, but they will only understand language of the immediate environment where they were nurtured. And they will not be able to speak their real mother tongue. So the issue of mother tongue in Nigeria, it depends on the environment where the family are residing. So there are many Igbo people that live in the southwest where they speak Yoruba language. If their parents don't speak the language with them, they will only be able to speak and understand Yoruba language. And they are from the eastern part of the country. Same thing goes with a child that the parents are working in the eastern part of the country. In that place, the mother and the father might have been used to the mother tongue, Igbo language, and English language. The children too, they'll be speaking Igbo language. When they come to their own father's land, their own indigenous community, they won't be able to speak their real mother tongue, but another mother tongue, because that's what they are nurtured with. Language of immediate environment is what they hear every day when they go out to school and meet their mates. So the issue of regional language in Nigeria, it depends on where the child is being nurtured, the environment the child is being nurtured, and the language they speak in that environment.
But the question I was asking,
okay.
yeah, the question I was asking is, how can grandparents and parents be producers of new knowledge related to supporting indigenous culture and languages? And because that's research. So what kind of indigenously, what kind of research they can do to support the nurturing of indigenous languages and other cultures and indigenous culture?
I think at first, we have to carry out the research to know the level parents and grandparents still embrace their indigenous culture. That will determine what to do. If it is still being embraced, if it is being recognized, but due to Western life, it has reduced. From the data collected, we would then know that, okay, it means not that because of Western education, our parents, our grandparents still recognize and know the importance of indigenous language. I think some years back, that should be 2018 or 2019, I carried out a research on child rights. No, on cultural day celebration, yeah. Cultural day celebration in Nigeria. The impacts on Nigerian children. From there, I try to know if the children can speak their mother tongue or they can understand They know about their traditional foods, traditional wares, and different festivals in their various ethnic groups. To my surprise, just few of the children can even identify their traditional attire, can even mention the musical instrument in their various indigenous culture. Some of them
Yes.
don't even know their indigenous town, but majority of them could speak their indigenous language, which means they still speak it. And I try to investigate from Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba children that stays in the southwest, because I'm based in the southwest of Nigeria. So the only thing I can see that some of them can, majority of them can understand, but none of them can speak the language. So I think awareness and trying to orientate parents, then to bring them back to the olden days that indigenous language is recognized everywhere. That is very, very important.
Yeah.
Awareness needs to be done on that.
Yeah.
Are
Very
you
well.
good with that,
Awareness is
Doctor?
one thing. Yeah. Sorry. Omolara.
What I want to contribute is that, first of all, I support awareness.
Yes.
But the important thing again is the environment. For instance, it is easier to teach in mother tongue in the outskirts of city. But in Lagos, where I reside, for instance, where even an Igbo teacher is in the class, how can he teach in mother tongue? Because even the teacher is not so good at the mother tongue. There is
Sounding
no
mother
common
tongue.
tongue in
Yeah.
the school,
Yeah. Let me intervene here. Let me intervene
especially
here.
in the city.
Yes. Yeah, I wanted to, I was thinking about generating knowledge, and I thought, especially grandparents, can take us back to the days of, old folklore. What were the songs? What were the customs?
Yes.
Yeah. So to bring that up to make sure it's not forgotten, because that is research. That is going back to the archives and going back to the old days and remembering, because then that information can be used to feed into the indigenous curriculum in terms of the poetry, in terms of the music, in terms
Exactly.
of the dance,
Exactly.
in terms
We
of that.
have
So the people with that kind of that information and grandparents. So
yes.
therefore, they can be able to unhand that information, and that information can be used to support the writing, the designing of curriculum that addresses indigenous issues. This is what I was thinking we could have come in. But
Yeah, I think so.
let's go to the
Because
second question, and let's welcome Olive Bodia from Kenya, who is joining us now.
okay.
And I'd like to request Gabriel, if you're still on, if you're still on, Gabriel.
Yes, Dr. Kalami, I'm still on.
Yeah. So let's if you could please project.
Yes.
Yeah. And I wanted to give Olive Bodia a chance to comment on the second question if she had a chance to go through the questions, because we've been discussing the first part of the assignment, and we now are getting to the other section, because it's the next 1 hour, on the types of research projects that can be used to support formulation of policy, to support expansion of access to affordable quality secondary education in your country. And so what are the key questions you must address? Who should be involved in the design and implementation of the project, as well as the conversion of findings into policy. I don't know, Olive, welcome. If you could say a little bit about yourself, and if you like to, if you say a little bit about yourself,
yes.
And then if you'd like to address that.
Okay. So good afternoon. I hope it's afternoon everywhere. I don't know. My name is Olive. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you,
Yes, we
Olive.
can hear you. You're welcome, Olive.
So I'm Olive from Kenya. Okay.
From Kenya. Okay. You're welcome.
Yes. I used to work, but I retired in in the last few months at Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. I was there as a deputy director, but I'm now retired. So
you retired, yeah.
Yes. So sorry, I wanted to look at the question. It's gone.
Yeah, but please, Gabriel, if you could go back to the question, please.
My apologies.
No problem.
Yes. So the question is, what I would propose as a research project to support formulation of policies to support expansion of access to affordable quality secondary education in my country. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. I think we would require to maybe meet the, have a research project that targets the policymakers and some stakeholders who have an interest in the secondary education, most likely the parents, maybe some people who have gone through the secondary education. So would have maybe a research project and where we can use mixed methods, either both qualitative and quantitative research. And of course, if I was to formulate some key questions that must be addressed.
So what specifically, what would be the subject of your research?
Yeah, I would want to find out what to them, what is it that what do they consider as quality secondary education? What would
that's
be
a good
quality?
one.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would be
be
quality secondary education? Because we have secondary education, but what do they consider as stakeholders? The quality, what would be quality education?
Yes.
So that's what I would like to find out from them. What are the components of quality education? What would be needed? What would we need to provide for it to be quality? So those are the things that I would like to find out from them.
And if you are focusing on that topic, what are the important questions you would have to address?
Yes, maybe this one I'm going to formulate from the head because I have not written them somewhere else. Of course, I would let them want to tell me in their own words what is quality education. The other thing is, of course, secondary education shifts in terms of the number of years. Like now we have CBC, it's going down to grade 7. So I would also like them to tell us at what point or at what age is it good to give that secondary education. What is it they would like the learners to learn in terms the learning areas or the subjects. I would also want them to be able to tell us what are the issues apart from just learning the subjects. What else should we take into account when designing quality secondary education? Then I think the other one is on inclusivity. How can we improve inclusivity in secondary? Because I think we have so many people dropping out at primary. I think this is a big challenge. I don't know whether it's the same in other countries, that children, you find them the same now. So many children graduate at primary, but they are not in secondary. So what are these issues that keep our children from secondary school? So some of those are the things that I would like them to respond to. Sorry, I'm speaking from
your own experience. Yeah, the Kenyan experience. Those are the issues you like to raise. So the subject of quality secondary education is important, but also you have brought the aspect of not just quality, but access. So basically you are saying, how do I expand access to quality secondary education? Isn't it?
In my country, yeah.
Yeah, so
I
in
agree.
terms of that, because you're talking about access, would you also ask questions related to affordability?
Yes, about affordability, because I think in my country, I don't know about the others. There are issues of children dropping out at primary, and we really need to capture what is it that makes not many children. I think there is the access, but what are the other issues that cause them not to access secondary education, so that we have lower numbers in secondary school? I think I would also like, we are already also thinking about day and boarding school. That's also another issue I would like to address in the research. Would it be good for children to access day secondary schools, or just could we still continue with the boarding? Because I think we have found out some issues that we'd like to address. Yes. Anything else?
What I think, Yeah, I think what I would say, Mbodia,
Yes,
that's very broad.
yes.
And you would ask, it would be
Of course,
broad
I would
also.
need to, yeah,
Yeah, it would be expensive. It would be time
yes,
consuming,
yes,
and you might not be able to do a good job of any of them because you'll be attempting to chew a bit too much. So I would probably just because expansion is already accepted, and in Kenya, for
yes,
example, we already have about 70-80% transition. So they're
yes,
already getting in there. So
yes,
the main question for me then would be, now that they're in school, how do we ensure that the school they are going into is not for nothing?
yes,
And the question,
yes,
therefore, is quality. I think if you just concentrate on quality, and I know this also applies to Nigeria, access
good,
is there. The problem we have from primary to secondary to university is quality. So an extremely
quality,
important question, because there's no point opening up schools without a quality of education that can make you compete. So I think just targeting quality is good enough, and then ask, what is it that makes a quality institution? In terms of facilities, in terms of teachers, in terms of what is taught, in terms of how much time is spent, in terms of the equipment available, and so on and so on. And that can just be straightforward and easy to address. Then then you would ask yourself, who are the parties you would involve in this project? Who are the kind of people you would involve in this project?
okay. For me, most likely those people who have transited from secondary school, that is those who have
In
gone
terms
past
of
the
designing, data collection, and analysis.
Oh, okay. Parties to be involved in a project design. Of course, I would get
Yes.
research assistants. Of course, people in the education sector who would understand the. So I think we would have to sit in a panel as stakeholders in education. Of course, there are many sectors in the education sector. Maybe choose some for some.
Okay. You see, quality, sometimes we talk issues of quality and we leave it to only educators and the people out there doing research and people in government. Is it important, and why, to involve parents in terms of being involved in understanding what quality education is?
Yes, even learners themselves.
Exactly, and learners and teachers. Why?
Yeah, of course, the learners will tell us their expectations of what is quality. Parents, of course, some of them, even though I know some would have maybe limitations in terms of maybe language or levels of education, but I still think we can go around that and ask them about what they expect. What they know, what they term as quality secondary education, what they would like to see.
Yes, so basically you involve anybody who has a role to play in education. What about the private sector?
Yeah, and of course, people who have also exited at secondary levels, wherever they are in other sectors.
Are there people to whom, is there anybody you would see as not being useful in terms of incorporating, but essentially would be the key education stakeholders? And then what about when it comes to, after you have done the research, who are the ones that you would use in terms of helping convert research findings into policy?
For me,
now you have your data, you have reports. Who should be involved in converting?
I want to disseminate.
No, not dissemination. You have even disseminated, but you want to convert that information into policy formulation.
I think for me, the group that have found out to be difficult to convince are politicians. Because others, when you have well-grounded things, they are able to accept and understand from where you are coming from. And of course, if it's research findings, they usually will have no problems, but politicians may have other things that you'll have to think about.
Like what?
Like what? For example, some coming, let me give a case in point like the CBC and what is happening in the country now. You find they're asking, why are you doing away with examinations, yet examinations are what makes them, sometimes when schools are listed, blah, blah, blah. So those are key people that I would like to really engage with.
Is it only politicians? Is it only
No,
politicians who are about
I
no
think
examinations? What about parents?
Yeah, but that was my number one group. But I think everyone else who is involved needs to be on the table to.
No. What I was saying, Mbudia,
Yes.
because you give the example of politicians wondering why there are no
Yes.
exams.
Yes.
But I would imagine the ones that are most interested in examinations are parents and teachers and pupils, even before politicians.
Yes.
Because, parents know better, and they think the only way you can judge whether someone has been to school is by what is their grade in an examination.
From
I think
experience
that
with
would be a bigger obstacle to CBC than even the politicians.
I found actually parents only react because they don't have the information. They don't know where you are coming from. Once they know, they accept, because we've done this. But you still see there's that of people who think maybe they have a stake in it, and I think this is ruining that stake. But with parents, once you give them, what I've seen in CBC, yes, they have a concern, and a big concern, because they want to see, yes, my child participated in this way and got this. But when you tell them why you are doing this and why the assessment maybe needs to change, they get convinced. I find they may not know why, they may not understand, but when you tell them where you're coming from, I think I found parents very easy. In fact, the biggest problem we have is ignorance. They don't know where we are coming from. Yeah, they just think you just came up with something and you are forcing it down their throat. But once you tell them, now, this is, we are doing this because of this. You see, you sit with them, let them ask their questions. At the end of it, you find most parents are agreeable.
What about the people who make the most money from good results in examinations, the owners of private schools? Will they receive?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, maybe even among the parents and this other group, the group that now also will have to be really private schools. I've been there and I know it's just lack of proper information, even with the private schools. But you see, our parents want to know but we tell them, you see, if we change this into this way because of A, B, C, D, we want to be able to tap on your children's learning rather than get a score. Then you find they agree.
Yeah, very well.
Sorry, Dr. Kiremi, politicians are very difficult because they still say, no, now my county, I'll not know what is going to happen. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, because also of ignorance, I think so. In other words, what you are saying.
Yes.
So if we want to get to do better, should we do some stakeholder meetings, some consensus building, some educating?
Stakeholder and whatever. In CBC, we design parental empowerment and engagement. Sorry, we haven't done a very good job about it. And I think that's where we are failing, because we really are not empowering and engaging our parents. And I think that is one group of stakeholders that are very, very important. And if we do well with them, we'll find they'll buy in and they'll support what changes we want to make.
Yes. So basically, you want to talk to politicians, you want to talk to parents, and then you want to talk to people in policy, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
And also, don't you want to convince teachers, because they have to be the recipients of the policy?
For me, I've found in education, the best thing is you all the same.
Yes.
My phone is calling.
Well,
Let me switch it off. Let me switch it off.
Please.
All stakeholders should be involved. Even think are insignificant, they still have a buy-in and they have a role. So I think that's important. Yeah.
Okay, let me go back to our colleagues from Nigeria, and who could to make comments on your kind of brief presentation, Bodia, so that we figure out whether we have similar experiences in those countries and where we kind of converge in terms of experiences. Maybe you want to start on Malara or Lawal?
What I can quickly chip in is that to engage parents, it used to be easy at the school level when we used to have a Parents Teachers Association. So the school has a day or two to meet parents. But the problem in that, and it was cancelled, is that parents, the school is always demanding for money. So they don't have a large number of parents attending the meeting because the parents already have it in mind that when they call meeting is to come and contribute money. So in Lagos, where I reside, it was this PTA, we call it PTA, Parents Teachers Association. That was cancelled and replaced by SBMC. Is CMBMC. That constitutes community members, whether or not your child is going to that school. It's a
And that would include parents.
It will include parents. It will include the community leader. It will include people who are in the community. And I think that is better.
But
parents. Their idea. Sorry.
But why would parents, sorry, Omalara, why would parents not be still afraid to come in just because there are other participants from the community? Because they can still be asked to pay more money.
At the stage of community, the community directs what to do. They listen to the needs of the school at a community level. And even in some cases, I can show you a picture of what one community leader donated to a primary school desk as they wanted. He had to go and build it and then bring it to school. But if it's a PTA in those days, they would contribute the money instead. So it's better to involve communities, to have that committee at the community level where it involves all communities. And you know, some people don't have their children. There may be the children older than the primary school, for instance, but they can see them in the community. It's only how many hours in the school, the rest of the hours is in the community. They can see what they are doing and they can, help them. Another area is the teaching tools. Are the teachers adequately have teaching tools? That's another thing. In the village, they want to use the tools that the people in the cities are using. Even when you are promoting available, affordable tools for teaching. Before you can use available, affordable tools, low cost, available, affordable tools, you must be able to convince parents that even the cardboard that they throw away can be used to teach the children. Not only parents,
materials.
but teachers also. And don't wait for imported materials before you can teach. And in fact, some of them in one of the villages I went, they kept everything that UNICEF gave them in the cupboard. The children are not interacting with the tools. They are not given opportunity to ask questions because he will just use it 5 minutes and put them in the cupboard so they don't damage it. So all these are some areas that we have to look into.
Isn't that, if you talk about that, Omolara, and appropriate technology for teaching, isn't it almost the same problem you confront as with the indigenous language? Do pupils and teachers don't they prefer more to use modern materials than what is appropriate?
But if the teachers went ahead, if he goes ahead to do that,
you speak a indigenous language.
no school. So you
Thank
see.
you.
Sorry.
So thank you, Malara. Maybe Lawal would like to comment
Well,
on some of the comments by our colleague from Kenya, Oli Bodia.
Okay. Like we have said.
And let me just before you say that, Lawal, there's a colleague who has been trying to join our group. She's only here listed as Asia. I think she's having a network problem.
Okay.
And I think she's not able to join us. So I think it's not that we want to exclude her, but she can't join. So please allow her.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Like we have said, government can't do it alone, but school community relationship is very, very important. On issue of technology usage by teachers to teach in their listening, I think I have carried out 2 various researches on contribution of community towards achieving quality basic education in my states. But I look at children with special, so I look at special schools in the states and see the effort of community. So this community that I look into a faith-based organization, NGOs, and individual philanthropists to see if they are really supporting education for children with special need in my state. And from my research, what I got was that faith-based organizations are more involved in achieving quality education for these children by providing some of their needs, like those that are in the hostel, they provide food for them, wheelchairs, things like that. So another thing is that some of these teachers that we are talking about here, even if they have the materials to teach or they try to improvise, I think because of the low salary income, majority of them are not encouraged to make use of these little facilities provided for them. Because from the investigation, from the interview, majority of them felt discouraged with their profession due to low salary income from the government. So it's only those that are in private school that are trying. So we can't say that we can just left out the community and talk about even parents are part of the community. Some parents are ready to support education, while some felt it is government responsibility, not knowing that there are a lot of things government are involved in. And as a parent, like in present states, in my state, we are the governor that we have said free education from primary to secondary. The previous government is collecting 1,000 naira per term from each student, and each student and pupil in primary school. And he established a school governing board. And this school governing board involved the parents and the teachers. So he eradicated PTA. They have school governing board where the parents have representatives. So whatever money that comes in from that 1,000 naira per term that they are paying or 3,000 naira per section, they have the way they calculate the percentages. Some that will go to the school itself for upkeep, to provide some basic things like chalk, things like that, and other things like that. But later, when this government came, because during his campaign, he said it's going to be free education. He stopped the payment of school fees and he stopped the school governing board. He said when he investigated, there are a lot of anomalies in their process or in their duties, things like that. So he said free education, and that brought many students back to school. That brought many students back to school. Many that have dropped out of school came back to school because they are not going to pay any dime. And he's trying all his efforts to provide teaching aids, to provide other facilities for students. Then he introduced the issue of alumni of the schools, all student or association of the schools to come and support their school. And some other abandoned building were being renovated by the old students, the alumni. So it's part of, so we can't do without community, because I can say old students as community too. They have their own contribution. So that's the present thing we are facing in my own state. I don't know about other states, but that issue of post student association has become a competition among the schools. You know, like for instance, now I finished from a school 20 years ago and I'm okay, I am blessed. Oh, okay, can you come together? My friend that finished from social school, they did this, they built library, they built this. So it became a competition in the states. So it now changed the phase of the school environment as old students are coming to do different things. Like in my school, we use chalk. Later, some students decide they want to bring whiteboard, and they provide whiteboard for students like that to use, things like that. So community has a lot of contribution to make, but that can be done when they are being encouraged. Some government may not accept. They will be like, you are taking their responsibility and they're not ready to do it. So encouragement really matters.
Yeah, because I want to go back to the issue of quality. So because we're narrowing it down now to quality,
Yes.
and we are trying to address the factors that contribute to a quality secondary education.
Okay.
Do you see it as a challenge? Is it important to define what we mean by quality as we start? And is there be an agreement about that, what quality is, or different people see it quality to be different? Which is the best way to start to be able to be in agreement that we know what we are measuring? Maybe I go back to Bodia if she's still on.
Yes, I'm here.
So I'm just bringing this forward. Is quality likely to mean different things to different constituencies? Is it likely to be different things to different teachers, that depending on the region you come from? Is it going to be different depending on the quality of the school? And if that's the case, which is the best way to compromise, to agree together as a country, this is the quality that we believe we should have, and this is how we should measure it?
Yes, I think that is true. I think if you give that word to people, that whether it's quality education or whether it's quality anything, the parameters they bring on board can sometimes be different. So they might be equated to different things. And I think the important thing is for us to know what are those things and get in depth into them. And of course, now with sort of unified agreement on what is quality.
So what would you define quality to be yourself? If you are measuring quality secondary school education, what is it that, how can we agree, some basic agreement of this is the quality we want? Because unless we do that, it's going to be very difficult to even measure. What kind of quality would be measurable?
Yes, things like access.
Yeah.
No, but access is on expansion, whether you are getting in. Now we want to look at you are in.
Yes.
What do we want to measure for us to know you are getting quality education? What is it that we are going to, what do we consider quality education? How do you define that?
Yes, of course, I think there are issues of relevance, whether it's relevant to what is happening. I mean, is it addressing the issues that need to be issued, the resources, are learners able to access the same types of resources across board? What else would I think in terms of quality? Is it inclusive and dependent on the...
Sorry, Bodia?
Are they able to access that education?
Hello?
So matters inclusivity, matters resources, matters and resources could be the teachers and the what is it called?
Facilities.
The physical infrastructure. Yes, yeah, facilities. So
So
some of
basically, you want to know
the,
whether is what we are measuring, is it considered relevant by the
yes,
community, by government, by
yes,
employers, and so on? Is
yes,
it
yes,
is the school well resourced to provide good quality education? And you have to
yes,
define what are adequate resources. You need to be able to define that, isn't it? You know, enough books, the ratio of books to students,
yes, the teachers,
whether there are libraries and computer labs, so on and so
Yeah.
on,
correct?
whether there are theaters if they are learning music, are
Yes,
there enough classrooms, these are facilities, the
yes,
teachers, the human resources, what kind of teachers do they have, are they qualified, what
yes,
kind of
yes,
qualification, so on and so on.
yes,
But there must be the final product that determines quality. Isn't it performance indicators?
yes.
On,
The assessment,
on given,
the,
yes, exactly, assessment.
the
Isn't that the
assessment,
most important
yes.
parameter?
Yeah, it's important because that's what will tell us whether we are achieving the quality. You know, we'll have to sort of do some kind of assessment in order for us to know whether even these things have given us the quality. So assessment is a key.
So what kind of assessment measures? What kind of assessment measures would we done?
Background noise.
Background noise,
Yes.
meaning
Sorry, what was the question and assessment?
I
Sorry,
asked,
I didn't get.
I
Yes.
asked, we have to assess.
Yes.
It's okay to have resources. It's okay to have, relevant curriculum. But now we have to assess.
Yes.
So we have to
Yes.
decide what are we assessing
Yes.
and at what point, and what is the measure that will make us decide
Yes.
what grade or whatever to decide that we have quality. How do we, what do we measure, and what is it that will make us know whether or not there is quality? What kind of standard are we going to use?
Okay. I think, of course, we need to measure performance, participation, whether all the learners are able to participate, whether their performance is good. I think
What would, sorry, to go back, how would you determine whether performance is good or bad?
By doing some assessments, you know, let's call, I hate to usually use, but I think they are tests, not necessarily the kind of examinations we do. You know, tests are diverse. You know,
Yes.
there are ways of assessing performance in terms of tests.
Yes.
But these tests don't need to be formative. I mean, it can be formative assessment.
And that formative assessment will let measure mastery of certain skills.
Yes. Depending on how it's designed. You know, it's how we design that assessment so that it is formative. It gives us not this one that we do usually, the summative one. Which gives us a one-off, maybe they see in a test. We need to be able to do that assessment as the learning is taking place, so that we see whether they are getting the skills, they are getting the knowledge, they are getting even the values, because they can also be assessed somehow, that we intended them to have at that level.
So let me just go back, because we have to identify the indicators, because without indicators, we can't compare, isn't it?
Yes.
Lawal, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, I think in this stage that we have now, talking about quality education, it goes beyond cognitive domain alone. I think achieving quality education, skill development is one of the key factors. It's not all children or all learners that can perform very well cognitively. But looking at the affective domain and the psychomotor domain, there are some learners that they may not learn very well in the class, but when you are involved in kind of, maybe let's say, project-based learning approach, you see their strengths from it. So assessing them cognitively alone cannot be an indicator of quality education from my own understanding. Like in the assignments, what I look at is I said quality secondary education in Nigeria, a reality or myth, under that research project. And all this,
Okay.
so that's the topic I gave the research project. So I now said, one, from the key questions to be addressed, to
You said the
examine
topic
number
is
of
sorry, Lawal. The topic is
quality secondary education in Nigeria, a reality or myth, MYTH. That's the topic I gave in the assignment you gave us. So, and from the 5 things to be addressed, I mentioned examining number of secondary schools available in each state in the country and their local governments. Because talking about accessibility to secondary school education, from observation, students at the rural area, they lack access to it. I have not confirmed it, but it's just still from observation. Then Anna said, we have to investigate availability of infrastructural facilities. That include the library, the laboratory, things that is needed to achieve these things that we need, like vocational workshop is part of infrastructural facilities in the school. Then I said, determine the population of teachers to students because it really matters. We were looking at Nigeria now, in some secondary school, a teacher can be teaching over 100 and something students in the class. How do you want to achieve quality education through that? How many of them, how would there be class control management? Then I said, assessing the level of provision of equipment and materials for learning. Those are the institutional aids and things like that. Then also determine level of accessibility to school in their locality. So I just look at that. Then I said parties that needs to be involved in the projects include MOE, Ministry of Education, because we have to get secondary data from the Ministry of Education. I remembered in 2018 when I was carrying out my research on educational service delivery for children with special needs. So I visited a state basic education board to just do an investigation. I was told that there is those special needs children that government spend much on, that by providing facilities for them. I said, are there documents for it? I was given documents so I snapped it and it was printed out. I have it with me. Then I carried out my research to confirm if truly they are really giving them highest budget from education budget to special children. So that makes me balance my findings to know that, okay, the government is saying the truth or they are lying. So talking about quality education, from my own experience now, if you want to look at global education, what it requires, it goes beyond cognitive domain alone. It goes beyond assessing them in the class, writing examination. No, because talking about quality education, what will make these children productive when they leave the school? It's not all of them that will go to higher institution. It's not all of them that will be able to further their education.
So that's an interesting perspective, and I also agree. But who do you think will be the biggest opponents to that kind of approach of going beyond the quantitative element to check on values, to check on that? Do you think teachers and parents will be very interested in that? Or they'll be interested in something that measures what can help them go to high school, to a university and get a job? Omalara. You are muted, Omalara.
Sorry. I said the question again.
I asked, when Lawal said we shouldn't just measure the quantitative, whether or not you are passing exams, you have very good grades in mathematics or English or social sciences. We want to know also whether you have been trained to live in an environment, to survive, to respect, to be a responsible citizen, and so on and so on. So I asked,
I think that
parents and teachers will be interested in that second part as they would in the cognitive bit?
Cognitive, I think that the government has introduced what we call continuous assessment. That is, the children are assessed in terms of various areas, whether cognitive or in other skills. And this is continuous. throughout the term. So it's not just at end of term. There is some percentage that is given to end of term exam. And there is a percentage that is given
so that you are evaluated throughout the year, so that you don't
throughout the
do,
year and through
so that
the
you're not judged, so you are not judged in one day.
Yes.
But the question I was asking, there are certain values that we don't test, and yet they're important. To be able to be a responsible citizen, do we test that? To check whether or not you are honest, do we test that? Whether you are patriotic, whether you care about the environment, do we test those values? And which is or leadership, do we test that? And is that important?
I don't think so. Maybe in the research that Lawal has been doing, maybe he has input in that. And I have another person doing some research too in our FPCD. And that is Dr. Ekini Funke. Especially she's focusing on the secondary school more.
Yes, let me because we have only like 10 minutes. And
okay,
one of the things we hope to get from this
can I just chip in one thing again?
Yeah, very quickly, please.
Very quickly. And that is in this era of post-COVID-19, what we are not considering inclusivity of digital platform. Everybody is back. God forbid that we have another thing that will drive us back home. How do we continue? So this is an opportunity to introduce this digital platform and online training for children and even community.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to that. If you let me,
okay.
We can conclude, because we don't have that much time. I wanted to, I said that one of the outputs from this project is to do a proposal on a subject that we can maybe use to persuade IDRC and the GPE to support a research project that is related to supporting policy formulation in a country. In this case, we agree that because access has almost been achieved, even though not 100%, the important question now is about quality. So I would request as part of this output, if we could do, each one of us could do a one-page abstract on the topic they consider important, the key questions to be asked, who would be involved in the design, data collection and analysis, and who will be involved into converting findings into policy. Basically, this come up with a concept note indicating the topic, why it's important, and how it can support policy, and who would be involved. And then we will figure out, once we get those write-ups, we can try to see whether or not we can consolidate something that would be interesting, that cuts across the two countries that have been, three countries so far, Kenya, Nigeria, and Somalia. Tomorrow we'll have another set of countries. So then we can figure out, is it possible to do a joint research project that is of a theme that cuts across all the countries and that we can use to learn from experiences of different countries? Because maybe this is also an opportunity to begin to form that network of people that are interested in research to provide evidence for policy making. Is that clear? Is that a little clear?
Yeah, a research topic, why it is important, and those that will be involved, right?
No, a research topic, why it's important, how you would go about it.
Okay, how to go about it.
And then, of course, how to go about it is who would be involved and so on and so on. And then finally, who would be involved in the conversion of research findings into policy. Just a small concept note. Maybe I can reward it and send you a clearer statement tomorrow in the group.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Okay.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, but the important thing is to begin to think about a topic that would be interesting, that would be relevant, and that can be convincing to sell to KIX and GPE if we want to follow this up, because it shouldn't be just talking about evidence and policy for its own sake. My argument has always been, can we move from that and do actual research and go through the whole process from research design to using that research to impact on policy. Anybody has a question?
No.
I think
Well
it's clear.
done.
Well, it was very interesting discussion. It was very interesting discussion. Let me try to
Yes.
formulate something tomorrow and send out
Yes.
to make it a little bit clearer. But I like to at this point to ask Yvonne, if she's still on, to do some concluding remarks. If not, I'll just wish all of you the best. And I really, really hope that this is the beginning of something that we can start together that can be, continent-wide project where we share experiences on how a research project can impact on policy related to quality secondary education in sub-Saharan Africa.